So when the world went on lockdown, I interviewed one of my good friends, Alex Hormozi, because I wanted to really tap into his mind and his brilliance when it comes to sales, high ticket, closing, especially during a time like this. Now, it wasn't just an interview. I wanted to really drill and grill him on all these different questions. What is he doing differently? How is he doing it? And by the way, if I've never heard of Alex, he literally 5 years ago, he was $100,000 in debt, and he took his entire business and his company to over 100 million in just 5 years. And this entire interview that I did with him was never released to the public. It just sat there in my drive on my computer and nothing happened. And I had no intentions to release it until now. And for the first time ever, this interview where I talked to Alex about high ticket sales, his mindset, his strategy, what he's doing differently, is going to be revealed to you for the very first time. And by the end of this video, you're going to be able to understand ultimately what truly makes the difference between the top 0.1% of entrepreneurs, especially during a time like this when it comes to mindset, sales, and pivoting. Let's go. Hey, welcome everybody. Today I have a special guest. Alex Hormozi has been helping gym owners scale when it comes to getting more leads and getting more sales, more visibility. I've personally known and seen Alex grow from starting his entire business and his entire empire, Gym Lords, and growing it to the empire it is today. Done over $75 million in sales, helping gym owners scale. And today I wanted to come from this angle of, because I feel that gym owners are probably one of the hardest hit right now. And I wanted Alex to share his insights in terms of what should you actually do. So you could be in a different industry, you could be in F&B, you could be in retail, but I wanted you to hear firsthand from Alex on exactly what you should be doing if you are in that situation. So first of all, Alex, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, honored to join.
Yeah, and I think that right now, the question I want to begin with is, so if I have a physical location, just like a gym owner, what should be the first thing I should be doing or focusing on right now?
I think the first thing is actually a mindset in terms of changing your perspective about what you're delivering to your clients, right? In a COVID, environment, the demand or the need for the service or the problem that's trying to be solved still exists. People are still overweight. That hasn't changed. It's simply the vehicle that you're delivering the outcome has changed, right? But if you have the skill set to help someone lose weight, you can still apply that in a virtual setting. And so just first off, understanding that dynamic is important before we even move forward. The second piece is the way that you can create a value discrepancy, right? The only reason that people continue to pay is because they feel like they get more for their money than they would get using their money elsewhere, right? And so a lot of gym owners had a lot of struggles because we work with specifically more boutique owners. So, CrossFit's boot camp, some are private facilities, kind of more service-based facilities, where they're like, well, going from in-person to remote, I'm losing value, which typically would be true. But we position is going from group to one-on-one. And so when you think about it like that, then all of a sudden your value discrepancy changes, because one-on-one in person might be a, $2,000 a month, personal training cost, but you're going to be able to deliver that for a tenth of the cost in a remote setting. And so if you look at how much that client might be paying you, they might have been paying you $200 a month for their CrossFit membership. And now they're paying you $200 a month for one-on-one, workouts and nutrition that would go with it. So we're still getting to the same goal. We shifted from group to in-person, but we're able to do that because leverage is so much better on the internet.
So just changing the way you look at it, mindset, and understand that people's problems are still the same and you can still deliver the same outcome in a different environment. Okay, very nice. So in terms of the execution then, let's talk about the marketing and what they should be doing on social media, in their lead gen, in their closing, in their sales process. What needs to be different now in order to make that happen?
I'll talk about two things. One is the messaging. The messaging switches from a bull or a bear market from a prosperous economy to a preservation economy. And so all of the words change. And so there's been studies on this that in a normal economic environment, gain versus savings will outcompete savings 2-to-1. So thrive, prosper, I call it prosperity doctrine, will outcompete preservation doctrine 2-to-1. But in a recessionary environment, it switches to be 4-to-1 in favor of preservation doctrine. And so you actually have a stronger buying impetus or threshold in a recessionary economy if you can change your messaging. So if you looked at all of Gym Launch's stuff overnight, I'm just talking about it in different settings. That's B2B. I'll go B2C in a second. If you look at how everything that we've talked about in Gym Launch, it's all about survival and pain, right? That's all of our messaging has changed. It's not fill your gym, make more money, 7-figure gym. Like all of that is typical messaging buckets that would convert in any normal economy. But overnight, that stopped converting. And so then we ramped up an entirely new messaging, different messaging buckets around the pain of cancellations, the pain of people leaving you, the cost of keeping your facility open, and just about survival, right? And so savings and discount now have far more, like I've never given a discount on any offer in 4 years. And in this economy, I'm willing to do discounts only, right? Because in this economy, people are super responsive to that. So we're actually, in this time, we've actually decreased our cost of acquisition by 5-6. So our cost of acquisition has gone down a lot. Just because, like I said earlier, it's twice as strong as it is in a normal setting. So if all things were the same, you should be able to even cut your acquisition costs in half because the buying threshold is actually lower if you match the right messaging. So in a fitness environment for B2C, right, if you're trying to get normal consumers, they're going to still be enticed by free offers and discount offers more so than ever. And so it's going to be more about how can you build a monetization structure behind a free or discount offer that still allows you to liquidate acquisition costs and still make money, right? And so that's where kind of like the expertise comes in terms of what are the offers that we're going to give people. What we do is we run free challenges, or we recommend that our gyms run free challenges. Now, we push straight to a phone sale. One of the big opportunities that happen right now, which is enormous for everyone, is that overnight general population, which has still been lagging and has never been on Zoom before. So like everyone who's on here right now, we're still way ahead of if you look at the curve of like the normal humanity, we're still in the first 10% of early adopters, innovators, et cetera. Most people are in the big chunk in the middle and they've never used Zoom before. FaceTime is radical to them, right, for technology. And so, but because of COVID, it's forced everyone into this new bucket where they had to learn how to use Zoom. They had to learn how to operate in a remote setting. So what this allows us to do is it gives us a blank check where everyone is now comfortable and expecting to give their card over the phone. And so we're actually seeing higher close rates in terms of percentage of leads closed versus in person, because we're actually able to remove obstacles to getting someone to show up. And so, for example, for us, when we're generating leads for these online campaigns, we're able to get twice as many people into a sales environment as we were before, because they don't have to get in their car, drive to the place, find the time, go through traffic, drop their kids off. They don't have to do all that. They just have to pick up the phone. And so because of that, we have twice as many at bats. And so even if your close rate drops, and this is probably a little bit of a mindset thing, but I think it's worth saying, of course, you're not going to be good selling over the phone. You've never done it. So don't expect it. We're like, after 6 years, we closed 70% in person. Great. If you had 6 years of phone sales, then you'd probably sell 70% over the phone. You're not going to do that. But the advantage is that you're going to get twice as many at bats. And so even if you suck, right, and you close half as many, you're actually still closing the same percentage of leads. So that's number one. The secondary effect of this is that because you're remote, you no longer are geographically constrained. And so what we've found is that we've been able to go from a 5-mile radius for a local gym to 25 miles and see no difference in conversion on leads, which you would never be able to do in a normal setting. And so what that does is it lowers the cost of acquisition because now we have a way wider net to pull from, right? And so our lead cost is lower, right? We're getting twice as many of those leads into a sales environment. And so even if you close half as many, your cost of acquisition is still lower. And so your lifetime value to cost of acquisition ratio is higher. which is why there is a big opportunity right now. Now, I don't want to talk about opportunity because no one who's listening to this is an opportunity mindset. But if you can, then really there's a huge play to be made.
Two things that you mentioned is really powerful, and I just want to emphasize on the things that you mentioned. Number one was when you talked about messaging. And I think that regardless of what industry you're in, the offer that we're selling right now can still be the same thing. Like, so for myself, I'm still selling the same thing, but my ads, my messaging on social media, everything that I'm utilizing to fuel that offer changes. It just evolves, because right now, rather than using the languaging of here's how you can crush it and here's how you can take your business to a whole new level, we're utilizing messaging like how you can survive and then thrive. We are not, number one, we do not appear as being tone deaf, and we're very empathetic to what's happening. And number two is you talked about lead cost falling, and this is actually the opportunity right now. I know, like, for me personally, Facebook ad cost I've never seen Facebook ad cost decrease over the last decade. It has consistently, in some years doubled. And this right now is like 2017 prices. So, and that's why there's that opportunity there when it comes to lead gen. So the next thing that I would like to cover then is the tweak of the offer. So as a gym owner, in order to deliver that promise and the outcome of weight loss and getting fit and building muscle, that's probably one of the hardest things to do, right? So yes, you talk about tweaking that offer. What would the deliverable be? It's a Zoom call? Is it like a group setting?
So what we wanted to do is focus our gyms on selling. We've taken out all of the lead generation and the lead nurture part. So as far as they're concerned, people just get scheduled on their calendars and show up for phone calls. Like, they have to do nothing before that. So they just have to show up to the call. All right. After they make the sale, we as Gym Launch, because we're a big company, we actually have 16 hours a day of workouts that are being fulfilled basically every hour of the day from 7 a.m. or 5 a.m. until whatever it is, 8 or 9 o'clock at night. There's a workout every single hour that's being done. And so that's one piece of it, but that's not the main driver, because someone can Google online workouts for free, right? You can Google nutrition plan for free. And so the primary value is not that stuff. And so that's the big mistake that I see a lot of gym owners make, is because they misunderstood the core value, what they offer it to begin with. It's never been about the workouts. If you're in our community, you already know that, because we preach that a lot. But your workouts at your gym are irrelevant. They can go to Planet Fitness for $10 a month and get group workouts, right? In person. And they can go to Beachbody online and get $9 a month workouts online.
That's what I'm doing.
Right. Right. So the workout is a commodity, right? Yep. And so how do you get out of that? The only thing that you can beat these big companies on is service. As a small business owner, the only thing you can do is beat them on service. And so the deliverables are going to be the one-on-one accountability, right? And personalization. Those are the things that a big company can't do. And coincidentally, those are the things you can charge the most for, right? And so when you're selling a client, you're selling them on the fact that the reason they have been successful is not because they didn't have lack of resources, right? It wasn't because they had lack of access to the things they needed. You can Google all the stuff you need, and you can even confront that on the phone. It's like, that hasn't been the problem, is it? It's been getting you to do it, right? And that's where I come in, right? That's where me being a coach is getting you to close the distance between what you know you should do and what you are actually doing, right? And that's where we come in. And so for us, from a tactical standpoint, that's reaching out to them 3 to 4 times a week, checking in on specific metrics, and then having them message you daily with their body weight and the supplements that you need them to take. And that way you can consistently get them to at least monitor their weight so that they're not going up. And then obviously make interventions, going forward, be it either cutting calories if you need to, or increasing their activity. And the thing is, big picture, getting someone to do a specific type of workout is not a long-term intervention. Just getting someone to move is. Like, if we could get everyone in the world to just walk 30 minutes a day, like, the average life expectancy would go about 10 years. You just need to get them to do something, right? And they just want to be held accountable, and they want to get credit. A lot of people just want a high five. It's like, I showed up to the workout today, and they want someone to know that they were supposed to go, acknowledge when they were there, and congratulate them after they were done. That's what people pay for. They pay for the feeling of knowing that someone else gave them credit, right? And so ultimately, people are paying you to pay attention, right? They're paying for your attention. That is what they're trying to buy, is someone to pay attention to them to keep them on track. And so that's the core offer, is that, right? The other things, the meal plans, the grocery list, the eating out guides, the workouts, the Facebook group, the Q&As, like all those things are things, but the core value is around making sure that they're doing it through one-on-one communication that's happened in a systemized process.
I love this, because that was the thing that I was like puzzled about. And you said it best. It's like the workouts, the meal plans, that's the commodity. But what people want is that feeling of, okay, I'm accountable to someone. There's the one-on-one, there's the personalization. And in fact, that is the highest perceived value. And then in terms of scalability, how scalable is this then? Is this really like a temporary plan in order to survive? Or is this something that can be eventually scaled?
So I undercame a lot of fire. In about 9 months ago, I came out with something called the hybrid gym model, which basically said two things. One is fitness and workouts are a commodity based on what I just said, right? You can Google workouts online. You can go to Planet Fitness for $10 a month, right? Workouts are not important. What is important is the one-on-one accountability. And you can, in doing and facilitating that service, have an entirely remote client base. And that's what created a hybrid facility, both in person and remote. And so I encouraged gyms to make that switch. A lot of people thought that was a wild idea. And I was saying that there's going to be a recession that's going to come. I had no idea it was COVID, but I was like, there's going to be something that's going to knock a lot of gyms out, because it's super fat. As an industry, everybody had a gym, right? And they're operating on paper thin margins. And so whenever you see that, it's ripe for someone to just like shake the tree and have 30% of the gyms go under, which is exactly what's going to happen. But in terms of opportunity, I'm bullish on the remote gym opportunity. Like, I think from a scalability standpoint, it's superior. From a lead generation standpoint, it's superior because you have a wider net. From a profitability standpoint, it's superior because you run 80% gross margins, you pay 20% to a coach. And typically that 80% normally would then go towards your rent, toilet paper, front desk girl, all of the other costs that would typically go with having an in-person facility are no longer there. And so you can really run a very high margin business on roughly the same revenue you had from a gym, except instead of opening up 3 more locations, you can just keep scaling and not have to sign more leases, do more build outs, get tenant improvement costs and go through construction and get permits, and like all of that stuff that normally goes with scaling locations is no longer a constraint online. I encourage very strongly for the gyms to make a concerted decision of what they want to do, because I think buying behavior is fundamentally going to change going forward, even after this, because they will have been introduced to remote services. And so at that point, if you've replaced your revenue, or at least your income, in 60 days during this Corona stuff, or 90 days, however long it lasts, with $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 on the remote income, you're probably making more from this than you were from your gym. And then all you need to do is keep doing what you were doing before. And you can either choose to go back to your gym or choose not to. But that's how I see it from an opportunity standpoint.
Nice. And I want to talk about implementation next, in terms of like, do you have a framework or like a 3-step, 5-step thing in order to implement this? And what are like the main pillars in order to roll this out?
So big picture, there's 4 core skills. You have to be able to generate leads. You have to be able to nurture leads to get them to schedule and show. You have to be able to sell over the phone. And then you have to be able to fulfill and retain in a remote environment. All right, there's nuances to each of these. Obviously, schedule and show are separate. Sales, there's multiple sales that have to happen. You have to sell the service package up front. Then you want to upsell supplements the next day. Then 14 days later, you want to upsell continuity. Like there's, if we're peeling it out, so there's more wrinkles to it. But from a core 4 standpoint, it's generating the leads, getting them to schedule and show, selling them, and then being able to fulfill and retain them on the back end. Those are the 4 skills that every gym owner or even personal trainer who's a wellness professional needs to acquire. And the nice thing is that works for pretty much every service business, right? You need to generate leads, you need to nurture them, you need to sell them, you need to fulfill.
Nice. And so you see this remote solution not as a temporary measure, but something that's actually permanent, that should be included in every gym's business model from this point forth.
I made a very strong argument for this beforehand of having a dual revenue stream model. And honestly, I only kept it as a dual revenue stream model because I know that the beliefs of my particular audience are that they want to have a gym, right? And so telling them you shouldn't have a gym is not necessarily something that goes
Crushes
over
their dreams.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, no, it does. And so for me, I have to cater my message and be cognizant of that when I'm talking about it, and really balance, like, what is your dream as a fitness professional versus being a business owner, right? And they're not necessarily aligned. And so if you're here to maximize how much money you can make, then having a 100% remote gym by far, like, no question, makes the most sense, right? But a lot of people don't want to do that because they really like their gym. They like the community. They like being able to show up and seeing the same people. And I understand that from a human standpoint. And so it's just, what is the trade-off you're willing to make? Are you able to accomplish that same human need in a remote setting in a different way? If so, then this would be a superior vehicle. If you're not, and you really like that, then I say, awesome, keep that, but still have this high margin revenue stream that's at least attached to it to take care of your bills. Because in general, brick and mortar service tends to be a low margin business overall.
And what is your take on those Zoom calls with, like, I don't know, 15 people on and training as like in a classroom format? Is that effective or not?
Yeah,
is that
I think it's fine. I think you have to do it the right way. So it's my opinion that those should be live, not recordings. And the reason for that is because people want to be seen for showing up. If you want to watch a recording, they just Google a far more professionalized workout than what you're doing on Zoom, right? And so you have to use the competitive advantages you have. So do them live, right? As soon as they come on, if we're getting really tactical, the first 10 seconds, you want to demonstrate the exercise, and the remaining 40, 50 seconds of that minute that you're doing interval or the exercise, you should be going frame by frame and saying, John, keep it up. Susie, keep your, butt back, hey, Nancy, go lower. And so one of the other opportunities that's nice about this is that typically you can't do that in an in-person setting. You've got a huge gym. You have to, like, run all the way around in order to be able to give people feedback. Whereas here, you can look right at the screen and you can go all the way around, and basically every minute you can reaffirm the client and give them feedback where you normally wouldn't be able to do that in a room. It's like you standing right next to every client.
Yep.
And so that gives you a huge advantage from a coaching standpoint because you can personalize everything much more easily. And they feel like they got 20 touch points in a session rather than 1 to 2, which is typically kind of what you strive for in a large group workout.
Very nice. And for the last part of this call, what I would like to cover is, I can see that a huge part of the strategy is actually closing people on the phone. And I know you've done that very, very successfully. I would love if you could share your framework in terms of how, from the start of the conversation to how you qualify them all the way to close. And I know that's hard to do that in a really short period, but if you could walk us through the methodology, that would be amazing.
So I'm going to give you the framework, and then I'll give you kind of the thing that matters more than the framework. So the framework is the closer framework. That's what we call it. So CLOSER. So it's easy to remember. All right. Clarify why they're there, right? Why'd you take time to hop on the phone today? What about the ad made you, click and sign up, right? Label them L, label them with a problem, right? Okay, so got it. So you saw it because you're trying to lose weight. You're overweight right now, so you need to lose 40 pounds. Okay, understand. So you think you wouldn't be upset if you lost 40 pounds working with us, would you? Ha 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 ha. No. Okay, great. So overview their past experiences. All right. So you're like, so tell me, like, what have you done in the past? Why hasn't that worked? What do you think the missing link was? Right? Trying to establish the gap, right, of where they're at and why they haven't succeeded in the past. And then S, which is sell the vacation. All right. So one of the big things that most people mess up, especially in fitness, is they want to talk about the program. No one cares about the program, right? And so we do an overview that takes less than 60 seconds, which is essentially breaking one core belief, which is you need 3 things to be successful: fitness, nutrition, and accountability. The reason all the things that didn't work for you in the past is because you lacked 1, 2, or all 3 of the things, right? You tried Beachbody online, but you had no accountability, so you didn't show up, and you had no nutrition, so you were still eating donuts after your workout, right? You tried Weight Watchers, so you had the nutrition help, but you didn't have the accountability, and you didn't have the workout, so you ended up just getting flabby and not toned, right? Each one of those examples, you can pull out and say it was lacking in all 3. And no one can say they had all 3, because if they had all 3, they wouldn't be on the phone with you, right? They would already be successful. And so once you have that, it pretty much overcomes everything. Because even if someone's like, well, I'm in great shape, then it's like, well, then why are you on the phone with me? Clearly you're dissatisfied about something. Otherwise you wouldn't be looking. Like, I've sold people who are like, I already have a personal trainer. I'm like, well, clearly he's either not giving you the fitness you want, he's not helping with your nutrition, or he's not holding you accountable, right? And which one is it, or is it all three? And so once they have that 3-pillar, right, for the pitch, then it's like, cool, then I think you might be a good fit for a program, and that's where you just make your offers, right? Whatever the offer for the program is. And then E and R are explain away their concerns, which is going to be their hesitations around making a decision, which everyone comes to the call with hesitations, which is why they're not in shape to begin with. And so you have to unpack those and, close them despite their limiting beliefs. And then R, I included R, which is reinforce the decision, which is immediately after the sale to prevent people from getting cold feet and backing out, which is important, especially in emotional based decisions like weight loss, et cetera, is sending them a care package, sending them a personalized video saying, hey, I'm John, I'm gonna be your coach. I'm super excited to work with you. You're on my team. I'm sending you a shirt right now so that you can wear them to your online workouts, blah, 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 right? And that way they feel like they're already taking the first step into the community, and that kind of cements the decision. So that's the closer framework. The overarching thing that I was saying that was potentially more important than the closer framework is understanding that volume is king, right? You have to get reps in. Like if you're like, well, I tried the closer framework, and I'll ask, how many times? I'm like, well, once. I'm like, okay, so you've had one call, right? Even if you were an amazing closer, right, and you had 5 calls, you're gonna have 1 or 2 that are gonna say no, even as an amazing closer. And you just have to expect that it's a volume game. And so for us, what we've seen in our community is that it takes 25 sales calls for someone to even become basic level of proficiency. So just be able to even have the conversation without stumbling, pausing, using filler words, getting off script. Like it takes 25 to just understand how to even have conversations with a defined beginning and end point, right? After that, then you kind of get into the more main stretch of like, okay, now I'm proficient. I'm not good, but I'm proficient, right? But it's just breaking everyone's beliefs who's on here right now about like, of course you're not good at phone sales. You've never done it before.
Yeah.
Like, and expecting that you're going to be amazing day one is just going to lead you to it's going to lead you down the wrong path. But if you can say, I'm going to take 100 calls and not judge myself, I guarantee you will be far more successful. And it doesn't really even matter what script you're using, right? As long as your offer is normal and fair, by the end of 100 phone calls, that will be better sales training than Card on You, than my own sales training, than straight line sales. The best way to learn sales is to get on the phone.
So powerful. Like, in fact, right before this call, I actually did a Facebook Live to my group, and I said, guys, right now, the skill set that you guys want to practice is being on webinars because the attention is there. And I said, look, chances are if it's your first webinar, you are going to suck. It's going to be horrible. Nobody's going to be paying attention. You have no idea what you're doing, but that's all part of the journey. And I think this is huge. Like closing on the phone, it's the same thing. Like for me, if you ask me to close somebody on the phone, that's scary for me because that's not something I do. But I can imagine that after 25 calls, I would suck less. So I feel that this part here is gold. So structured, but most importantly, the mindset behind it. And closing on the phone is crucial I think it's highly applicable for any business, really.
And what's interesting about that, so I have a friend of mine who's a PhD, and he does lots of behavioral analysis, all that kind of stuff. And when I told him that we had found that 25 to 30 was kind of the sweet spot where people at least started to like kind of at least have some consistency to their numbers. Like, okay, I'm closing 1 out of 3. Every time I get on, I close 1 out of 3. He said that was 100% in alignment with stress response theory. And so if you have a fear of spiders or a fear of whatever, right? It takes 25 to 30 neutral exposures to that stressor for you to not have a stress response. And so essentially, like everyone always wants to play in the game like they play in practice, right? Like, why can't I play in the game like I play in practice? It's because in the game, you haven't had enough distraction training, which is how can I do the thing without having the negative weight of stress, right? And so the more exposures you have to the stressor, the lower your stress becomes, right? Like people who have never fought before get into the ring and they can't breathe because they're breathing so fast, they hold their breath, right? But eventually the most experienced, fighters are relaxed when they're in the ring. And so essentially it's the same thing when you're selling, is that you need to be able to lower your stress response. And sometimes the easiest way to do that is just exposure, right? So that you can actually say the script without choking up and fumbling and feeling insecure. It's just a stress. It's pure biology. It has nothing to do with your skill at that point. So anyways, I thought I'd share that because I thought that was really interesting.
So powerful. I think mastery is really the ability to execute a certain task with minimal resources, right? And It's goes. I think every single skill set in entrepreneurship is like that. The only reason why I can do live events and it without flinching, without being nervous, is because I've done hundreds of them. But when you ask me, if you were to ask me to do like an interview or podcast like what I'm doing now that's different. This is probably my number, like I've done less than 24 so far. After doing a couple, I've gotten a little bit more relaxed, and being on a phone is the same thing, really. So many good, so much gold here. Any final words to leave my audience with when it comes to pivoting, when it comes to closing on the phone, when it comes to high ticket sales, especially during a time like this?
Tillman Fertitta, he's a billionaire. He said, especially during recessions, you want to sell to the masses, not the classes. And so I think a lot of the rules of value are the same, but the economics around how you create value change. And so right now, you may have to shift from, if you're accustomed to be selling $5,000 fitness programs, right? If you're used to that, it may mean you need to sell $50, $100 programs, right? And it's just understanding that, because right now, like during the recessionary times, tons of huge businesses were founded, IBM, Disney, like all of these were founded during recessionary time periods. And so what it does is it creates business models that work on volume, typically. And so I think that giving yourself permission to create a product that serves the masses rather than the classes is something that helped me. And I think it also helped my guys out, because our guys are all used to selling $2,000 to $5,000 packages. And so when I told them, guys, we're going to sell $300 packages now, and this is how we're going to do it, but they're selling 10 times as many of them, there's a certain stability that comes with volume. And right now, people are willing to buy. They may just not be willing to buy for as much. And it takes a little longer for them to trust you. And so having a multi-step sales process with kind of a lower barrier entry point right now is something that we're seeing big trends. If you're in that period and you're like, what should I do right now as final words? It's just be willing to make those types of changes to your business model, as long as the economics make sense.
Love it. Hey, Alex, thank you so much for doing this. Hope you guys got tremendous value. And we'll see you in the future calls.
Thanks so much, man. Appreciate you.